But we do have back again Tamara Shoemaker, who wears many hats. Auto ISAC is one, which is Automotive Cybersecurity group she's working with to teach those cyber engineers that there's bad people trying to get into their whatever they create to connect these vehicles. Be advised, right? Absolutely. And secondarily, she also is the Michigan, is it manager? I always call you manager. It probably isn't for Cyber Patriot. What is it? What's the actual title?
So it's a 501(c)(3). So founder of the Michigan Cyber Patriot program.
Okay. And per usual, we always assume there's folks in the audience that don't know what Cyber Patriot is. So let's start with that.
So it's a STEM program, and it's actually for K through 12. But the part that I get is most involved in is the part that's middle school and high school cyber competitions. And that their season runs from October until March. And so we're in the middle of a season right now. We're actually in season 15. And we've completed in December 9th and 11th. They did the state round championships. And so I'm proud to say that out of the 5,264 teams that compete nationally, we have 142 teams that go head to head here in the state. The competition is all virtual. There's no traveling. There's no bake sale money in order to buy buses or any of that kind of stuff because it's all virtual. And so we were able to continue right through COVID and through any of the other problems that you have in that kind of space when you're trying to organize a youth program. It's very, very easy to implement, which is why I get involved in it. There's low cost barrier to get involved, $295 for a high school team and only $185 for a middle school team to play, all girls team, and Title I schools are all free. So again, it's very low barrier to entry. You only need a couple of computers in order to stand up this thing. And then of course we need some other folks to be involved in this program. And that's why I come on your station and talk about it is every chance I get.
Yeah. So again, one of the questions is how is it progressing? And it seems like it's other than, well, obviously you need more money and more support, but other than that, after 15 years, how is the program progressing?
Growing every year. We had a little bit of this last 2 years because of COVID, we had a little bit of we went backwards a little bit in sort of as far as numbers, but it is growing every year. New people learning about it all the time. We have a lot of folks that have returned and are continuing to do it. We've lost a few during the COVID thing, but that's all kind of coming back now that everybody's, back in school and things are getting cranked up. We are, like I said, we're right in the middle of our season. So December, we had the state champions, and I have a list of those folks that won. We have also coming up, we have this weekend actually was the SemiFinals over the weekend. And that's the other cool part about this thing is that they compete over a long weekend. And so they have Friday, Saturday, or Sunday to decide to open up the competition and play the game. They have 6 hours to complete their mission and close it back up again. And then they get scored over the weekend. And in that way, it works out whatever works for best for the coach and the team as far as schedule wise. So that's also very helpful. And they always know that schedule a year ahead of time so they can plan accordingly. So I don't know about you, but I spend most of my spare time running back and forth to sporting events for all of my grandchildren. And we certainly don't get a ton of lead time on any of those days. But it's fun. And we, as is the Cyber Patriot thing, it's very, very important. It's very dear to my heart. And so, we've been involved. I've been involved now for 8 years on doing this and trying to grow it in Michigan. And we've had some good, steady growth over the years. And so I'm hoping to continue to do that.
And so can you talk about who the semifinalists are? Have they been named?
Not yet. That's sort of the scoring and stuff ends up happening over the beginning of the week, right? So the semifinals, no, but the state finals, I can tell you who won in our state, right? So who are our state champs? So our first place for our all service divisions. We have 3 divisions. We have all service, which is our ROTC and Air Cadets and all those kind of teams, which is where it originally started this game. We have middle school folks that only compete against middle school. And then we have the open division, which is all the other schools, which are the regular high schools, charter high schools, even folks that are in distance learning, they don't go to a high school. Those folks can all get together and have a church group or a rec center group that can compete, and in that group. So in that all service division, we have a first place Howell High School for the gold level. There are also three levels: platinum, gold, and silver. And so for our all service division, this year we have only gold and silver. So our second place gold is the Major Kevin Adams Memorial Composite Squad. And third place in gold is Lapeer Composite Squad. We have the first place in silver is the Tri-County Composite Squad. And then we go over to the middle schools. In the middle schools, we have some folks that have been in for a while and have been winning successfully for a couple of years now. We have the first place team is our Farmington STEAM Academy. Our second place team for middle school is Chandler Woods Charter Academy. And our third place team is Oxford Middle School. Then when we drop down to the open division, which we are in our platinum level, which is the highest level, the first place is Canton High School. Second place for the platinum is Bloomfield High School. Third place is also Canton. So Canton's got first and third on that one. So exciting about that. Looking forward to getting those trophies out there. Our gold level first place is Bay Area ISD Career Center. The second place is in the gold division is the Tuscola, there we go, Tuscola Technical, too many T's in a row, Center. The third place is the Kent Career Tech Center. And then we go down to the silver first place, Armada High School, second place, West Michigan Lutheran High School, and third place, Kent Career Tech Center. So it's very exciting to get those champions here in the state of Michigan. And again, they went against 142 teams to be able to get those places. So we're pretty excited that they did so well.
So they get trophies, and is there like a recruitment process? Do you have employers or potential employers at these events that are eyeballing these kids and trying to figure out which ones they want to go after as they mature and get their degrees and various letters behind their name, that sort of thing? Do you see that?
So right now, federally, absolutely. At the federal level, when they go to the national champions, we have all the big names, AT&T, IBM, Cisco, all the folks are all there, and they're watching that competition very carefully. In fact, some of them actually have some little injects that they help with the live finals. The only time that everyone gets together and does it live, it is at the finals, and that'll happen in March. We don't have any Michigan teams going to finals, but we're very excited about the state level and how much we're progressing. We don't have that at the state level. So for the last, 6 years. We have been at the state level. I have the Michigan Cyber Patriot program has been awarding trophies to our state levels. Normally they just get a certification from the national level at that point, but we've been making sure that they get state trophies. In fact, the last couple of years, the governor has also given them a state for the first 3 places in the state. So that's been exciting as well to get that kind of acknowledgement. We don't have enough businesses working in this space to come in and coming to our award banquets and those kinds of things yet. We're hoping to get that kind of involvement as we go forward, but right now we still haven't gotten enough. We have, onesies and twosies companies that have been helping me work this out, but we haven't had the kind of the help that we would really like to have to grow this program in the state of Michigan.
So what are some of the resources out there that teachers can use to develop these cyber training curriculum?
Well, I'm so glad that you asked. If you can see the goofy background on my slides, it's not the normal ISAC slide that I usually use behind me, but it is one of the resources, and I know you're going to pull it up for me.
I'm going to see if I can find it here. There it is. Okay.
So over the years, I have been going to every conference that I can go to, every get together I can go to with my teachers across the state of Michigan. And what we discovered at both a national level and a Michigan level is that teachers really don't have enough resources in their hands to be able to do this. I quite often run against people who are the IT teacher who, maybe could put a Facebook page together. And so they were tapped to be the IT teacher. And then we try to talk to them about, working in the cyberspace, and that just makes them go into lockdown, right? Because they're having a hard enough time with just IT. Now we're talking about cybersecurity and they get very nervous. So I convinced my husband and Ken Sigler to help me write a handbook for these teachers so that they had a better way to be able to go at this. And we wanted to make sure that it matched exactly what higher education is looking for. So they had a nice clear pathway. They could be doing things in middle school and high school in the classroom that then would also transfer over and work when they went into community colleges and onto universities. And so in 2017, all of the educational folks came together and put together guidelines, and it's called CSEC 2017. And what we did with that was, instead of it being, my husband's already put out a book on that actual guideline for the same folks that wrote this, CRC Press. And so what we asked to do is to do it for conventional classrooms, right? For middle school, high school teachers and what they could do. And so what we did was we broke this book down and we made it conversational, right? So this is not some huge textbook that is every single one of the, the guidelines point by point. It's 8 different sections of what you should be teaching, and it's done in a conversational method, so that it's a middle school teacher, a high school teacher, and a college professor, and they all get together and they discuss how can we weave cybersecurity training and education into the middle school and high school level of things. And so again, it's very conversational. It's a paperback. It's not high cost. We made it as easy as we could so that we could deliver this to them and they would have resources. It also includes resources that are out there that are free in the book for teaching material. Now, there are also exercises in here. We did the best we could to try to get them to be able to understand this is not scary. It's not hoodoo. It's not voodoo. It's just really, really, really good principles, IT principles that if you know them and then you follow them, you're going to make sure that these kids have a really good pathway into higher education and to continue their studies in cybersecurity.
Okay, and it's $37.09 on Kindle. Paperback is $46.95. And if you want to go hardcover, then you're into 3 figures. So, but is this, obviously this is now available. How are sales going?
We haven't, actually hasn't started yet. February 15th it comes out. And so I wanted to get sort of a preempt strike on that, because what I would like to ask folks to do is to purchase one for their middle school and their high school. Get these things into the hands of these teachers so that they have the resources and that they need. So that when I proposition them to put together a Cyber Patriot team, they'll already understand how easy it is to implement these things into their traditional learning in IT, and that they will be able to be cyber experts on their own just from these easy lessons. And again, this is very conversational. It's very easy to understand. It's come from from their own perspective, so it's not somebody on high kind of beating some horrible long guidelines that has a ton of clauses and things at them. That's not that at all. It's definitely a conversation trying to make it easier for them to implement it. Again, that's one of the things that's really, really missing right now is the resources that they need in their hands.
Okay.
Many of them are very, very open to getting involved, but they just don't know the way forward. And we want to make that as easy as we can for them.
All right. And then also, how can folks listening today help?
So a couple of different ways, right? I mean, you alluded to that we always need financial support. Obviously, if we're going to give out trophies and have an award bank, we have to have some kind of support. We also need financial support for summer camps. We've not been able to run a summer camp last year because we didn't have any finances to do that. We normally run several summer camps across the state, getting hundreds of people exposed to this every year, which is why we were always growing in numbers in the state. We need some help with that. We also need volunteers. So if you happen to be an IT person or a cybersecurity person and you have some free time, I ask you to reach out to your middle school and high school in your area and volunteer to help them. You really don't need a ton of time to do that, but it's really important that they see that pathway and they see it through you, right? Those folks that are involved in this and that are really doing this work. There's zero in unemployment in cybersecurity, and we really want to get these kids inspired. In fact, I don't care if they don't go into the field, as long as they're not users that don't understand how this all works, right? Because they're our future workforce, and they're going to go forward. And I'm hoping in my lifetime we can stop clickbait, right? Or we can stop folks from clicking on attachments and clicking into that ransomware and all the other things that are nasty things that are happening to us, because the awareness piece is just not there. And people of our age and younger don't know about some of those things that are out there that are dangerous. And if we can teach it in the schools and teach it early and often, then I think we can, kind of slow this down and not make, being a criminal quite so lucrative. We also need folks to, like I said, so to, get this book in their hands, as many resources as we can. There's a ton of free listings in that book that they can just click on and just deliver, lessons on cybersecurity. They don't have to put any effort into it whatsoever. And so having the backup of the business community, I think, is very important, Mike. And so I'm hoping that we can reach them with your podcast.
We can certainly try, and certainly what I'll do after the show is not only do we share it on MITechNews.com, but also on our various social media platforms and see if we can get that out there.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So anyway, other thing too that I want to ask you about is we mentioned it when we first started Auto ISAC. Again, we'll assume no one knows what that means. So why don't you talk a little bit about that?
So all of the critical infrastructures have ISACs, and so they're information sharing centers. And so the Auto ISAC Center, I work for them now. I have worked for them now for a year and a half. I came to them when they were just putting together their training, their cybersecurity training. I've been working on that now in cooperation with NHTSA, which is their regulating body, and we've put together an amazing training program for both fundamental level, basic level, and advanced level hands-on. So the fundamental is virtual, and the hands-on is hands-on. Everyone, you have to be there. So even right through the last 2 years, this last year of COVID here, we were doing hands-on training. We were in a garage out there at ACM, which is the American Center for Mobility, with the garage doors open, despite the weather, working on CAN bosses and all kinds of other things that they need to secure. We put over 200 people through that training already, and so I'm pretty excited about that. This tomorrow, we have our first one of the certifying exercises called a CAPEX exercise. And we have 27 folks going through that tomorrow. And when they come out on the other end, and those that pass will then become certified. They will be certified automotive cybersecurity engineers. And so they'll be the first crop of those that are going to happen. We've had so much interest in it. We've got another 25 to 30 folks going through it again in March. And so they'll be pumping out that. And we'll continue to do this training until until we don't need to. But obviously with this subject matter, it will always be needing. In fact, we've changed things around a little bit. We had 4 different classes, 4-week-long classes for our advanced hands-on. We took one of them away and moved it into the virtual space, and we added EV. So we're going to be doing an EV training this coming fall with the other 3 offerings that we have in the hands-on. So it's been very popular. The cool part about this was that it's the industry working with NHTSA, working with education to get this out there so that we have more folks in this industry up to speed on cybersecurity auto and how that relates.
Well, our 215 guest has not showed up, which gives you more opportunity to talk about cybersecurity and what you guys are doing. Let's talk in general about what some of the issues right now are in cybersecurity. I mean, we get Dan Lorman on a lot and Richard Steenham, but we don't get you involved in those conversations typically. What are you seeing as a cybersecurity professional, particularly with the connected car area? Everybody wants to connect the cars and wants them to get all the digital feedback and self-diagnostics, and all that means you're connecting to a Wi-Fi somewhere, and that then connects to a network somewhere, and the bad guys are quite aware of that, right?
Yeah, they are. We have had less problems, to be honest with you, in auto. We have less problems in the actual physicalness of the car and that piece, because you actually have to have physical, connectivity in order to get to the car. Then we have IT issues, right? So we still have the same traditional of all infrastructures across the country. We still have the same IT issues, right? Which is ridiculous to me, but it's that awareness level of understanding for everyday ordinary employees, right? And so I went to a conference last week, and I was just astounded at how many people are in that business of teaching awareness, and yet we aren't changing some really, really, really easy things. We still have buffer overflow in IT, and that's still happening. We still have folks that are not paying any attention to open source coding and using it and reusing it, and it has vulnerabilities in it that are well known, and they're still using it. So many of the traditional things that hit everybody else also hits auto. Then, like you said, when you add that physical component that also has to do with physical security, right? Because if there's anything goes wrong in a car, that can have horrible repercussions on a highway or any of those kinds of things. Our folks are, like I said, this is the first industry that's actually requested that they have in-depth cybersecurity training for their own industry, and that they came together for a year and a half before I even came on board. They came together, they opened kimono, and they talked about the problems that they're having at the engineering level and how to bake some of that stuff in. And they've been really hitting it head on and been very proactive at it. So I do want to say, while there can be problems, and there are, and you see that all the time with Tesla and many other folks that have issues that are way out there on the leading edge in the innovation, they are trying to address them, and they're doing it in a proactive way. And so I'm very proud to be involved in that. Being from higher education and coming into training, right? It kind of is like a little bit weird, but it was needed in our industry. It's needed in all industries, and it's very good to see them get as involved as they are. We really do have, we want to be as innovative as we can. Right now, we're pushing for the EV thing, which is why we're going to be doubling down on training on that. There are issues not just in the car, but also in the interaction between the charging stations, right? Those charging stations also also then tap into the infrastructure. If everyone plugged in all at the same time, we might bring down some of this infrastructure that's a little on the old side. And yes. So all of these things are really important, right? And again, until now, we haven't been thinking about an adversary coming after our cars. Except unless you're looking at sci-fi, right? So sci-fi has had that happen. In fact, I was told that there's a new horror film out about a robot, a little girl robot that's supposed to be built as a companion who goes crazy, and she melds with the car and makes the car go after people and all that lovely stuff. We thankfully don't have that issue yet.
Good to know. Yes, good to know. So,
where we have robots running loose and, hooking into other things. But like you said, we have this whole world is IoT, right? Everything is connected to everything else. And so it can be cascading failures or cascading successes, depending on how we take this and how proactive we are to make sure that these things don't happen.
Yeah, there's a lot of concerns about AI. We all think of the Terminator movies, and that actually is not out of the realm of possibility.
No.
We don't know if we get a super smart AI that feels like, I don't need these humans anymore, then what?
Right.
I'm not saying that's going to happen, and I know they're going to do their best to make sure that doesn't happen, but that's the whole nature of AI, is it learns, it gets smart, and it gets, it absorbs all this information from everywhere. And I'm sure that anything that we did to try to prevent that was happening, they could figure out how to get around it, right?
Well, you always have to be very concerned that the technology gets beyond our own headlights, right? Our own brains and the scientists that are working on it. So we have an awful lot of innovation right now that's continuing. I don't think I ever thought of, I don't know that you did, ever thought of that my car would be emitting radar in order to be able to, do things like turn the lights on and off and, kill my brights and do the different things that it does do right now. And so we don't know what we don't know, right? So we do have to be very, very careful. And as we talked about just personally earlier before we went online, the bad guys are always paying attention, and they're not necessarily coming at us conventionally. They're coming at whatever the weak spots are. And so we do have to always be vigilant to make sure that we stay on top of things, which is real difficult, which is why, again, I'm going to circle back to why I work on Cyber Patriot so much and why I'm trying to get so many kids into the pipeline, because these things are our everyday life now. Everything's connected. Your refrigerator tells you when you're out of ice cream, and right? And Amazon, I don't know how many times she asked me if I want to reorder something because she thinks I'm low on something and that kind of thing. So we have to be very, very careful when we're putting that innovation together, that we also think about the ways bad guys can come at us. And so it's very important that we teach early and often, right? We get to these young kids, we make them understand that you connecting, at home, you shouldn't be telling people that you're home alone. We need to make sure that they know we have really strong passwords on everything. Make sure that they understand sort of the etiquette of, online chat that you don't necessarily know. The reason that we had a high school kid, if you can see it, we had a high school kid design our illustrations in the book. And this was his illustration for, you don't know who's behind the screen on the internet, right?
Oh yeah, good point.
It's a little creepy, but it makes the point, right? So, you don't know what's over there. And so you always have to be vigilant about all of those things, but we're not teaching them all those basics. And so it really does come back to the awareness piece and the basics, and teaching them younger, and then showing them a pathway, right? To be able to learn these STEM disciplines and be involved and help me. I know that these great minds are going to be the ones that are going to come up with the innovation and hopefully protect us from any of the bad guys that will try to bust into our innovation.
The other thing that you mentioned previously that we probably should point out is Cyber Patriot's not just for kids. It's also, say, senior citizens who...
Absolutely.
I'm a senior citizen, but I've been covering technology since 1980, so I'm a little different from the typical senior.
Me too, but I also, right, just like I have lots of friends, right, that are not as tech savvy, and the senior citizens are the most vulnerable population on the planet right now. They are trying to stay connected, and so they're using the technology, and we don't necessarily have a lot of stuff out there. But Cyber Patriots come up with a program, and it's a really cool program that you and I can all take advantage of. Anyone can take advantage of. There's a self-study. So if a senior citizen wants to go to uscyberpatriot.org, they can do the self-study and find out about the ways to keep themselves protected. But also anybody else can go on there and you can actually become certified trainer in this. And you can go to senior citizen homes, you can go to church groups, you can, talk to your friends about the things that you've learned. And help that population understand that, well, we're trying to stay connected. We also want you to be safe.
Yeah, particularly now, I mean, if they want to communicate with their grandkids, maybe not so much their kids are a little older. I mean, if you're senior and you're old, and
they're redundant, let's be honest.
Yeah.
It's just, the kids are redundant. It's all about the grandkids.
Right. So if the folks in the senior citizens homes, or even don't have to be in the senior citizens homes.
Not at all.
I mean, I got a buddy of mine in Grand Rapids, doesn't want to get on the internet because he's scared to death of it. But all of his kids want him to, and more of his grandkids, they want him to join him in, texting or something.
Oh, yeah.
And he just won't do that. He's scared to death of that,
So understandably so, right? Understandably so, because you can be very easily duped by, people in industry are having a hard time with clicking on emails that they shouldn't. So it's very understandable that senior citizens, want to be careful. But again, if you go to that website, uscyberpatriot.org, there's a free self-study. And you can learn how to protect yourself. And it's not so complicated that you can't, it's nice and easily presented. I mean, again, it's why we wrote the book and why we wrote the book that way, because we wanted teachers to be able to understand that these principles are not scary and real complicated. They're just good hygiene, right? When it comes to you being on the internet, you being on your phone. And the other piece is that phone, right? So a lot of people think that they're not connected. They're not on the internet. They're not doing anything because they're using their phone. And that's a huge computer there, right? It didn't start out that way, but it is now. And so there's almost as much functionality on your phone as there is a PC. So we have to understand that that's also being connected, even though it's your phone. And so you need the same kind of things that you would do on a laptop or PC, you need to do for your phone as well to keep yourself safe.
Even more so. I mean, some of these, for instance, I use a $1,000 phone, but if you want to get the one that flips open and it's like a little iPad, that's a $2,000 phone. And actually the functionality on those phones are every bit as good or as advanced as my MacBook sitting next to me, right? So,
and we finally have the time where it's like Dick Tracy. So you're not only are you on your phone,
yeah.
Watch. So my watch calls me and tells me, that I've got a text and I can play it from there. And again, there isn't anything that isn't connected anymore, unless maybe you live in a cave somewhere. But and so we do need to be vigilant, right? And at least all of us have a tiny bit of awareness about what we need to do to keep ourselves safe.
We hope so. One more time, let's plug your book then. It's going to be on Amazon on February 15th, I said?
Right.
I think you said?
So it's, Teaching Cybersecurity, a handbook for teaching the cybersecurity body of knowledge in a conventional classroom. Again, this is a resource for our middle school and high school teachers to be able to just drop down and be able to start teaching cybersecurity right straight out of the book.
Okay. Well, when we post the segment that we've just done here, I'll make sure there's a link to Amazon on that so people can pre-order the book, right?
Absolutely. Like I said, I'd love to get it in all the middle school and high school teachers' hands in the state of Michigan. That's my goal. And so I'm hoping we can get there.
Okay. Tamara Shoemaker, how do they reach out to you for, just cybersecurity and Cyber Patriot? How does one do that?
So you can just email me, tamarashu@gmail.com, or you can go to my website, so MICyberPatriot.com. And we can start a conversation if you'd like to volunteer at one of the schools or work with one of the camps, do any of those kinds of things. I'll be glad to help direct you on how we can do that.